Alright, so here's a message that I got a few weeks ago via YouTube. Hello my friend, we are a two-person PC game development company. We have developed a new PC game called Complex Roots Assault. It is an open-world, first-person shooter horror PC game with lots of hidden features to discover by the player. We are hoping to sell this game online, but it is difficult to market our game for selling at a good price. So can you help us to market our game by making a nice, good review about our game? Please be kind enough to make a nice review of our game, which will help us for marketing our game and encourage our future game developments. Thank you. Yeah, one of their profiles says they're from Sri Lanka, and I don't know what kind of accent they have. So another indie developer has come to me asking for a nice review to help market their new indie game, which begs the question, have you seen my channel? Getting a nice review out of me is like getting an intelligent comment out of Donald Trump. It's possible, sure, but odds are it's not going to happen. I was psyched for a cool and new horror game to play for Halloween. What I got... well, you know the Angry Video Game Nerd's review of the Atari 5200 where the entire video is just him trying to get the damn thing to work? Yeah, I think I have one of those now. The dev sent me a link to an installer for the game on 4Shared, and when I ran the installer, it got to about 85% completion and then stopped. I've seen this error very recently at work. This means the installer has a corrupted file. When I complained about this, when I brought this to the developer's attention, they sent me a few links that I could try to get it working. I put this game on the back burner so I could focus on my new indie game special, watch the video, and subscribe onto my channel. And when I went back to check these links, every single one of them just led back to the exact same installer with the exact same corrupted file. I found out the game would still start up even with the incomplete installation, and I had a fleeting moment of hope where I thought this game might still work, except this is what happened when I tried to run it. Either this is the most psychedelic horror game ever made, or the floor didn't render and I'm just falling endlessly through the blue hell that exists outside the game world. So much for that. I went around 4Share downloading the exact same installer about 7 times, ran the installer more times than I can count, hoping in vain that eventually I'd stumble across the right installer or at some point the game would just decide to work. The installation hung on the exact same corrupted file every single time. I just kept running the installer anyway because I could not wrap my head around the fact that a developer would be stupid enough to ask me to review something that empirically does not work. Eventually, it sunk into my thick skull that I was never going to get this game to work, and I resolved that I was going to have to review the game's demo if I wanted to keep my promise to the developer, and even the demo runs like ass! And not a nice ass like Anne Hathaway's. Or Tiffany's. It runs like sweaty, disgusting swamp ass! I had to crank the graphics down to their absolute lowest setting and lowest resolution to get the game to run decently, let alone run well enough to get any decent game footage of it for this video. And even then, the frame rate fluctuates at complete random, running fine 1 minute and running like PowerPoint's developmentally challenged stepson the next. For some reason, turning off the minimap dramatically improves and stabilizes the game's frame rate. In fact, the developer tells you to do this on the game's store page on Desura. Free tip to the developer, if you tell players to turn off the map to fix a major bug, rather than just patching the major bug yourself, that makes you come off as a hack. And while you're keeping track of bugs, I've got a few more for you. Clicking anywhere on the pause menu fires your gun in the main game. I've caught enemies floating off the ground when idle, and trying to check the controls on the pause menu does nothing but unpause and fire your gun. Trying to alt-tab out of the game freezes up the game so badly, I had to restart my entire computer every time that it happened. It gets worse, but we'll get to that later. The game's opening cutscene has no dialogue at all, and all it really shows is this Sephiroth-looking guy with fabulous flowing silver hair getting struck by lightning and falling off an electrical tower. And when the game starts, you're at the bottom of an electrical tower, so I don't know if you're playing as Sephiroth or if he's the supernatural villain of the game. I'm guessing it's the second. I'm not going to criticize the graphics. This is a very small developer, and I don't mind graphics as long as the game is playable, but the enemies are all clones and this wind is janky. Trees do not do that. Also, the AI tends to run towards you rather than actually use that long-range weapon that's sitting right in their hands, and I've caught a few of the enemies running into walls. Though, the enemies do have walking animations. Puts these guys ahead of digital homicide. You have 4 weapons. Your main gun is an AK-47, which doubles as a sniper rifle once you turn on the binoculars. yeah, it's not at all how AK-47s work, but it's still cool. One touch that I really like is that if you reload, you don't get to keep the bullets from the half-empty magazine that you're throwing out. You just move on to the next magazine. That's always bugged me how in other shooters your character keeps the bullets from the half-empty magazine you're replacing, like he's instantaneously pulling all of the bullets out of the magazine off-screen in the middle of a tense shootout. You have grenades and an RPG launcher, which I haven't used yet because, again, realistically, they're very easy to blow yourself up with. They also have C4 landmines that I haven't found a use for yet, and it's endlessly humorous to see your character spontaneously sprout a third arm to operate the detonator without dropping your gun. The weapons are all very well done, and they give you a decent variety. It's just that I haven't found a real use to anything but the AK-47 yet. Trust me, this will all make sense in a minute. You walk through a field, take out a field of enemies with the binoculars function, head towards a complex to rescue a scientist, and get killed because enemies from another part of the map have snuck up behind you. You have to very carefully scout out the entire map to take out all the enemies before going too far forward, because enemies can be alerted to your position and will migrate from other sections of the map to gang up on you. You also have to very carefully and methodically pick off enemies at a distance with the zoom function because it only takes 3 or 4 hits to kill you. Luckily, the enemies typically won't just sneak up on you and kill you instantly because most of the enemies have the accuracy of a stormtrooper and will consistently fail to hit you even at point-blank range. The only time you'll ever die is if you get ganged up on, because law of averages, eventually the enemies will hit you. You regenerate health, you just can't take 3 hits in rapid succession. It's a very basic shooter so far, but I do like how you need to be patient and methodical about how you clear out levels. Also a weird but awesome bug, the enemies clip through walls but can't actually walk through them, then you can shoot enemies through the walls as a result. So the game so far isn't terrible, it's pretty bare bones, kind of enjoyable. There's just one teeny tiny little problem with the demo. It crashes like a blind speeder bike pilot! The demo crashes when you try to change the graphics settings, the demo has crashed when I tried to respawn, and the demo always crashes after this little maze when you're about to rescue the scientist. In fact, it crashed inside the maze too. I have played this game and gotten this far in the level 5 times, and the game has crashed at this exact spot every single time. Near as I'm concerned, this demo is unplayable. It can't run correctly long enough to beat the first level. At this point, I decided to hit up Google and see if I could find some actual information on this game, because between the devs' radio silence and brushing me off when the installer didn't work, I was legitimately beginning to wonder if this was some bitter asshole sending me malware disguised as a game installer. Come on, tell me that doesn't sound like something Digital Homicide would do. I found sale pages for this game on Indie City and Desura, where I found out this game is a sequel to a game called Complex Roots, a game that not only actually exists, but has decent to good reviews. And that's in spite of the game having a title that sounds like a quadratic equations app. So it's not that the dev can't make a game, it's that their business is not doing well and they're freaking out and trying to sell a game long before it's done. Sinking down to my last hope for getting a working copy of this game, I tried to purchase a copy from a store with actual money, and even that didn't work! The Indie City page has a download link for the demo, but not for the full game for an unspecified reason. I tried downloading the demo to see if it was more complete than the demo I have, and Firefox warned me that this site is not trusted and I probably should not actually get anything from them. That's always encouraging. Desura, meanwhile, is having technical difficulties and a founder in the hospital. I couldn't even validate my account with them, let alone actually buy the game. Because when I tried to buy the game, a processing your purchase message appeared, it stayed there for 2 straight hours, and then I took the hint and gave up. I swear to God, the universe does not want me to play this! I went back and forth a lot on whether I should even make this review. On one hand, the game doesn't install and the demo has more bugs than Dr. Hodgins' lab on Bones. On the other hand, I promised the developer a review of the game, and like it or not, this is the state of the game right now. This is just a surreal situation to be in. The developer asked me to review their game. The copy they sent me doesn't work. The demo they sent me doesn't work, and I can't find a site that will sell me a copy that does work. This is the game that man was not meant to play. How was I supposed to make a nice review of this? That installer screen sure is pretty 10 out of 10. I eventually settled on a course of action to put my mind at ease. I sent the developer 2 new messages making it abundantly clear that I cannot get their game to work, and I asked if there was a functional installer that they could send me. I decided to wait a week before uploading this review just in case they replied, and on the day The morning that I was going to edit together and post this video, I actually got a response from the developer. It reads, and I quote, "Those installers are perfectly working. Try 32 and 64-bit versions for Windows separately. One of those should work." I'm gonna try that installer one more time. If this does not work still, I swear to God! Okay. 1. There is no installer for a 32-bit version of Windows. The 32-bit link that you sent me just leads to the 64-bit installer and the demo. If there is a 32-bit installer, which wouldn't help me anyway because I have a 64-bit machine, you didn't send it to me. 2. I have tried the 64-bit installer a million times and it hasn't worked. I've informed you directly that it has not worked. It's not going to magically start working now unless you go in and fix the damn thing. 3. Thank you for making my decision on whether to publish this review really easy. Your wake-up call begins now.